For this video, we are comparing two very popular phone cameras against each other. On my left side, or might be on your right side, depending how the video turns out, is the iPhone 11 Pro. And we are comparing it against the latest Pixel 4. This one happens to be the XL version, but software, camera spec wise, they're identical. So even if you get the non-XL version, these are the camera qualities that you are expected to get out of these devices. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take you along a journey, because right now we are filming with the front-facing camera at their max resolution. The Pixel 4 has a 8 megapixel camera, while the iPhone 11 Pro is using a 12 megapixel camera that's capable to shoot up to 4K at 60 FPS. While the Pixel, geez, this is a sketchy bridge, hold on. So I guess this will be a great way to test out the image stabilization. I gotta cross this creek. Yeah, that's not stable. Can we make it without falling and getting our phone wet? I don't know. Baby steps, I'm such a rookie. But right now we are indoors, and I guess this is a great way to test the microphone quality from these devices. You guys will see the icon, which one's which. Holy cow, that is a wicked sloth, or is that Sid from Ice Age? I don't know. But here we go, switching back to the front-facing camera. Once again, I have both phones at their max resolution, which will be labeled on the screen right here. Trying to hit my face against this weird concrete wall. But I want to say they both handle the echo pretty well from going inside a little tunnel. One thing I noticed with the Pixel 4, however, it crops in a lot more on the front-facing camera when you're recording. It doesn't do the same thing when you're shooting a photo, only when you're doing video. So although the iPhone 11 gives you a wider field of view on this front-facing camera, especially when shooting at 4K at 60, the Pixel crops in too much, in my opinion, which is making me having to extend my arms really far out, as you could probably tell. But I mean, this is a great way for you to get the stabilization idea as well. It's kind of jittery. I don't know if it's going to show like that in post-production, but you guys will be the judge. Now on the iPhone 11 Pro, I lowered the resolution to match the Pixel resolution. So both of these phones are shooting at 1080p at 30 FPS. And where the sun is, let's see which one can handle the light transition better. Less glare on the iPhone from what it looks like. But both of these are honestly handling things like a champ. Again, I'm just not a huge fan of how the Pixel 4 front-facing camera actually crops in a little bit too much. But you can see the nice clouds in the background. And again, that glare, but for some reason on the iPhone, I don't see that glare. I don't know, more testing. Let's do more comparisons. So I'm gonna go do a quick sprint to see how well does the image stabilize. So here we go. So in case you missed it, during the microphone switch back and forth between the Pixel and the iPhone was picking up a lot more wind noise compared to the iPhone. Then the front-facing camera stabilization, it was reasonable. Not really impressive, but it was good. Switching to the rear cameras, stabilization, I mean, it's really impressive how far smartphones are coming. They're almost gimbal smooth almost, but there definitely is a significant difference between the iPhone and the Pixel. So both of these shots you see here are me just casually walking, shooting at 4K at 30 FPS. Both are identical in camera recording resolution. But one thing I noticed, the colors, in my opinion, they look more crisp and realistic, like color accurate to the real thing on the iPhone than it does look like on the Pixel 4. The Pixel 4 kind of like, it looks like it's a little bit more exposed if you see. But if we freeze frame it and then zoom in just a bit, you notice how on the Pixel it gathers more detail. You could definitely see more detail, especially on like the tree trunks. On the iPhone, it's somewhat like blamish everything. But again, for color accuracy, I gotta give it to the iPhone because these trees were definitely a darker tone of green. But for capturing detail, I mean, the Pixel is doing an excellent job compared to the iPhone. Here, I'm literally running same resolution, but I'm putting the image stabilization to the test, and the Pixel 4 is actually handling it like a champ, while the iPhone 11 Pro is kind of shaking all over the place. Still really impressive, but I mean, that footage is not usable. Whatever software or feature, whatever thing, witchcraft that the Pixel 4 has, it's definitely doing a better job. It's almost gimbal smooth, but if you notice, if you look closely, some of the frames is like warping, has like a warp effect. So in the professional industry, this footage would technically be ruined anyways. So moving on and continuing the side-by-side image stabilization, I lowered the resolution to see if the iPhone would improve compared to the 4K resolution it was previously shooting at. But both are set at 1080p at 30 FPS, and they're about as identical. So the Pixel really does a better job in image stabilization than the iPhone when it's set at 4K at 30 FPS. Is what we would be concluding if this was the regular 11, but since this is the 11 Pro, this has an ace up its sleeve. That ultra wide 12 megapixel lens combined with the image stabilization on the same track, on the same shooting at 4K at 60 FPS, which is something that the Pixel 4 cannot do. It's locked at 4K at 30 only. We are able to get this ultra smooth, almost gliding effect as if this phone was actually on the gimbal. This is insane, and with a little bit editing and post-production, you get this extremely smooth footage. But like the rest of the footage you see here, everything is raw, no edit. Now, why is shooting at 60 FPS important? Because let's say, for example, you shot a video and you slow it down a bit. See how the cars are like choppy on the Pixel 4? Since it's locked at 30 FPS when shooting at 4K, it can't really accomplish these smooth motion footage that you're seeing right here. And let us not forget that the front-facing camera also gets this exact same treatment and can also shoot at 240 FPS. The Pixel doesn't do that. Now moving along, comparing the photo aspect of things between these two devices, the Pixel did an excellent job in capturing additional details, because where the leaves are at, you see a lot more leaves compared to what Apple is showing us on the iPhone 11 Pro. And even though both shots were facing the exact same direction, the sun glare, there's less glare on the Pixel 4 as well. Now this one is the iPhone 11 Pro, same exact angle, just we took the shot with the new ultra wide lens, and I want to say the color accuracy improved. But again, going back into the photos, just regular photo taking, no editing, there's a lot more glare coming from the iPhone 11, and the color accuracy is more accurate on the Pixel 4, as well as the attention to details. Taking a portrait shot, both look good, but again, the smaller details that the Pixel 4 can capture look stunning. But the iPhone does a better job in edge detection. Our two subjects, the flower and the bee, are perfectly focused, while the Pixel had an odd fade. But I think this is more of a personal preference, because both, again, look really great. Here's another regular shot. This time we're under shade, so there's no glare from both of these cameras, and I mean, they're almost identical, to be honest. I gotta give it to the Pixel 4 for taking a fantastic outdoor daylight photos, because the color accuracy is actually really good in these situations. Switching to the telephoto lens, the Pixel does have a larger sensor, so it's able to capture a lot more different shades of gray, because the pole on the iPhone 11 Pro, it looks like it's just one color, while the Pixel 4 was able to capture multiple different shades of gray, so it looks more natural and more color accurate on that one. Now here's that same pole, but this time with the iPhone 11 Pro ultra wide lens, and this lens is really fun to use. I really wish that the Pixel 4 also had this. You can get really creative, and it's a lot better in carrying extra lens in your pocket if you use those ultra wide lens. You could easily take some very unique looking shots and make it even better in post-production. Now using the Selfie Cam, since the iPhone 11 Pro does have a larger 12 megapixel sensor, it's able to capture a lot more than what the Pixel with its 8 megapixel camera can capture. Colors look much more accurate to realism, and the exact same thing can be said when using portrait mode. The fade effects on the Pixel doesn't look as realistic, as natural like it does on the iPhone. The iPhone, I think Apple has it right when it comes to giving that natural fade effect. Now the portrait mode has been significantly improved on the Pixel side. Portrait mode now utilizes data from the second camera to capture more shadows and gives you more tools to edit with, but even with these fine tweaks, it still doesn't match the same fade effect like it does with Apple. Now that tool is definitely useful, but I still prefer what Apple does. Apple saves the data that allows you to go back from a photo that was already taken by portrait mode, as it saves all that data so you can actually fine tune it and correct it that way, instead of just being left with the brightness and contrast and stuff like that, which you also have available on iOS. But even with those fine tweaks, I still say it looks more natural on iOS than it does on the Pixel 4. Just by zooming in right here, you can see there's a major difference. Here's another indoor portrait shot using a rear camera. So since the Pixel does have a slightly larger megapixel camera, it does gather more detail, but the software, when it comes to taking portrait shots, needs work, because look at this. And compared to the iPhone again gives it a more natural fade. Now when shooting video and utilizing the telephoto lens, maxed out 6x zoom, there's a significant amount of noise coming from the iPhone. This can also be said when it comes to taking photos at maxed out zoom. Google did a fantastic job in its digital zoom software to eliminate as much noise as possible. Then this shot in a low light environment was very interesting, because underneath a shade or in a low light environment, the iPhone has a better color accuracy compared to the Pixel. Even this MacBook body looks more accurate, like how it actually looked like during that situation. Now it's time to test low light in outdoor environment. So here, the only light we really had was just that little pole. And the Pixel 4 doesn't handle this light very well. And this is without night sight or night mode on either of these phones. Now in this next shot, we did use light mode and night sight for Google. Night mode on iOS looks fantastic. But again, the Pixel 4, even with night sight, that glare definitely ruined it. Now on the bridge, past that annoying little light, using night mode and night sight, I mean the differences are right there. Night sight I noticed gives you like a purple tint, and night mode on the iPhone 11 looks fantastic. I mean this looks color accurate. The 11 Pro is really pulling off some fantastic looking shots. To give you an idea how dark it is, the only lights available are street lights, lamps, and homes. And in this environment, this is a shot that these phones were able to pull off. The 11 Pro is definitely taking some amazing shots right now. Here's another shot of just a simple street sign, and you can tell on the Pixel 4 it's giving like a purple tint. You'll be seeing this a lot more. While on the 11 Pro, I mean, it looks good. Now this shot was just an experimental shot. There's little to no light besides the street lights in the background and my vehicle's parking lights. And it's very obvious that night mode handles glare reflections a lot better compared to night sight. Just look at the ground. The iPhone is actually giving more detail this time. Same exact spot, this time with no parking light, and again the Pixel 4 is giving that purple effect that I was telling you, that purple tint. While the iPhone 11 Pro continues giving us the most natural color possible. Now even with simple neon lights, the Pixel 4 is still suffering that annoying glare it seems like. Even this one's also giving that reflection. And when capturing footage at night, I mean like, just look at this. The difference is night and day. I don't like how the Pixel 4 looks like when it comes to shooting video at night. It gives that, it's still giving away that awful purple tint. I don't know why. While on the iPhone 11 Pro, I mean, it looks good. It looks like I'm watching a film, to be honest. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down in the comment section which one of these images really stood out for you and helping you in your decision making. And do comment down below what are your thoughts about these two comparisons, about these two phones. If you got great use from this video, do hit that like button, get subscribed, hit that notification bell, especially if you enjoy seeing videos like this. Now that video on the lower right hand side, those are all the cool new tips and tricks and some new features you could do in the camera application on the new iPhone 11 Pro. So definitely do check that out if you haven't yet. But thank you guys so much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you on the next one.